Okay. Hi, everyone. Hi, welcome to our event. I see we've gathered a lot of people, so welcome. Today we'll be talking about smart legal contracts, legal tech or tech law. Just a second. Clicker. Thank you. No technical issues on a tech discussion. Okay, so I had prepared some words to say about smart legal contracts, but we're going to jump right into the conference. Also, this is one of our blockchain community events, so we hold them usually in Networking Premium. We've decided today to try a puzzle, and yeah. So, who are we? This is an event that is catered by us, INDUSTRIA Technology, and One Legal, who will soon join the stage. INDUSTRIA Technology, we've been more or less 20 years on the market. We've been working with financial software. For the past 4 or 5 years, we've been...
Sorry to interrupt. Can you speak a little bit closer to the mic or just louder because it's very hard to hear?
Okay.
I don't think the microphone is working.
Okay. I can try a little louder.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So we have been 20 years on the market. For the past 4 or 5 years, we've decided to work with blockchain technology, and we've decided to work with a lot of other industries apart from finance. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We're around 50 people. We've had hundreds of projects delivered across various industries. Okay. So what do we do actually? We work with distributed ledger technology, confidential computing. We work in a variety of industries such as banking, capital markets, insurance, supply chain, and also legal, which is the topic of today's discussion. We have a product that is called Smart Legal Contracts. Very interesting because today that's what we're going to talk about. And we have a lot of partners, but we have 3 that are very important to mention. We are working with R3, UK-based company in London. They are developing enterprise blockchain, which we are using for the majority of our projects. It's called Corda. We also work with their confidential computing product, which is called Conclave. And yeah, we've been working for 4 or 5 years. We have many projects delivered. It's a very interesting company. Then we have a Cord project. So a Cord project, they're open source. We use them for smart legal contracts. We've been researching and dabbling in the industry for the past 3 years. And in the past 1 year, we've actively been working on our own solution, which we will talk about later. Our newest partnership, I don't know if everyone can see it, BSN, blockchain-based service network. So this is a consortium from Hong Kong, Beijing, and Singapore. They're developing a public infrastructure for blockchain development. So they're doing an infrastructure layer for dApp deployment, decentralized apps. I'm not going to go into too much detail about all the projects that we're working on and all the products, but you can check us out on our website. And I'm going to pass the mic to Nino, our Corda tech lead, who can tell more about our projects. You have a mic. And a clicker.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm really happy to see you all tonight here. As Karina mentioned, I'm Nino Bonev, and I'm part of INDUSTRIA for almost 3.5 years now. I clicked something. I'll try this one. I'll quickly introduce you into some of the interesting projects we've been working or we're actually currently working on. The first one is Digital Sandwich, as it's called. It speaks quite a lot just by the name. Funded by Innovate UK, the main aim of the project is to improve traceability, efficiency, and waste management in the food supply chain industry by providing, by creating a twin of an actual sandwich, digital twin. And speaking in numbers, just to mention, the goal is up to 7% reduction in cost, up to 70% reduction in waste, and 50% reduction in funds. Sorry about that. The next project we want to share a little bit more insights about is Rebalancered. It's project that we've been involved for the past, let's say, a year and a half. This is actually a really interesting project with many volunteers, like 100 volunteers from different countries all around the world. The main goal is to preserve and change the way we look into keystone species. And in particular, now our focus is in Gabon and speaking about elephants. So the idea is in the future to consider keystone species from all around the world. But the first step is just Gabon and bringing those elephants into the carbon offset market and recreating the, let's say, the way we treat such existing resources. Also, I'll mention about smart legal contracts. As shown on one of the previous slides, we've been executive partners with the core project Smart Legal Contracts for the past 3 years. And let's say for the past 1 year, we've decided to dive deep by ourselves, and we are actually quite dedicated into developing our own product into the field, starting with construction industries, where we have identified that this is the area where we can, it will have a, let's say, immediate and great impact. Hopefully, we'll be able to share much more details about, let's say, our findings and implementations into the field in the next year. And yeah, it's a really interesting, let's say, innovative product that we want to create. Here I'll stop for now from INDUSTRIA, and I'll give the floor to our friends from One Legal, Jenny and Pavla.
Okay, so it will be just
Jenny, all right.
Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to see you here. Well, who we are? Who are we? We are legal innovators. One Legal Net is a blend of creative spirit and profound expertise. Innovation is a trademark of One Legal Net. Why do developers trust us? It's just because we know about the emerging technologies, and we even know the professional lingo of tech industry and crypto people. Can you change the slide? Well, we started the blockchain conversation when nobody else did. In 2018, we organized the first ever event dedicated to blockchain on the legal changes related to blockchain technology. The name of the event was Legal Chains of Blockchain. This event was very interesting. There was a fruitful conversation and discussion with the participation of experts from the National Revenue Agency, from experts of Deloitte, and with the participation with people from blockchain sector. The next slide, please. Our key practice areas are generally we advise online businesses, business models, blockchain and crypto projects, software licensing, digital platform compliance, NDA and trade secrets, policy making and terms of use and policies, whatever policies, privacy and security issues, IT servicing and outsourcing, website and e-shop development. We advise platforms, applications, online entrepreneurs, web enthusiasts, and tech people with their projects. What else? What next? So today's discussions will be very interesting and fruitful and useful for everyone, because this is a smart contracts are very interesting. They have a huge implementation and the interest is huge. Legal industry is interested in these new developments. This is just the trend, and we cannot stay aside of this trend.
Thank you. Okay, so I just realized I hadn't presented myself, but we also have one more person to present. So my name is Kalina Tonkovska. I'm Business Operations Manager of INDUSTRIA Technology, and I also lead the Smart Legal Contracts team in the company. And now we'll welcome Boris Nikolov, who is our CTO.
Thank you.
Okay. And we're going to start with, well, actually, this is the main part of the event today. We're going to do a panel discussion. And you can see a QR code, which I'm not sure everyone can scan. But if anyone wants, they can come up close now or never speak of this again and scan this code. Because this is our poll. We wanted to kind of introduce an anonymous question asking during our panel so we don't interrupt the discussion. So if anyone wants, now is the time. Does anyone want? Okay, gonna jump aside. This was totally planned. Okay. Don't be shy. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna speak louder. Can anyone hear me? Can everyone hear me, actually, not anyone? That doesn't make sense. Okay. Okay, so we've prepared a couple of questions that we're gonna go through. Nino apparently doesn't want to sit next to me.
I'll be close to the panel.
Okay. Okay, so we have a couple of questions lined up. We've decided to go through the basics of what is a smart legal contract, because there is a lot of misconception on what it is. What's the difference between a smart legal contract, a smart contract, legal implications, and so on and so forth. So I haven't seen many events in Bulgaria or in Sofia about this subject. I think it's very interesting. Our company, as I said, we have been working on actively for the past 1 year, in total 3-4 years, and we are encountering a lot of unknowns, a lot of questions that we are happy to discuss today, actually. So because this is a collaborative effort, this is why we decided to make a panel with both legal and tech at the same time. Yeah, okay, let's start. Okay, so the first thing that we want to discuss is smart contracts versus smart legal contracts. Okay, it's not a fair game because we have only one person from legal, only two people from tech, but we're gonna try and make it. So what is the difference between smart contracts and smart legal contracts? Maybe, Boris, you can start first. What is a smart contract in blockchain? So there's a big discrepancy between the two terms.
Yes, actually, smart contracts are very popular nowadays because of the blockchain. And what they are is actually a piece of software, some code that is being executed in a decentralized network. And what they do is usually validate and decide when actually capture an event and do some work in a transaction. For example, this could be sending some currencies between parties or something like that. And yeah, the main thing is that it's basically a piece of software on a decentralized network. Actually, when we talk about smart contract, we usually reference vending machines as the oldest example of a smart contract, but it's nowadays popular in the blockchain for that. And yeah, that's smart contracts.
Okay, so for the most part, without human intervention.
Yes.
Okay, no boring legal stuff.
Yeah, they usually capture some events that happen outside of the network, which introduces more interesting things like oracles and etc. But the main thing is actually that it's a piece of code.
Okay.
Well,
Can you pass the
I-
mic?
recently published. It doesn't work.
It's for the
It's
stream.
okay. I recently published an article. Is blockchain an oxymoron? Yes, it is. It's quite good oxymoron because so good, like terribly good. And I think the opposites can interact and they can complete the whole unit. Something like yin and yang. You know, blockchain is all about freedom, law means order, but they don't contradict, they can complete the whole unit. When I'm saying the whole unit, I mean the society, the life itself, because without rules, there will be a total chaos. Who wants to live in a chaos? So I think there is no contradiction between technology and law. The whole human civilization is built on the solid basis of rules. I'm enjoying to live between two worlds, between the offline and online world. You know, the life today is dominated by technologies, but I'm not too frustrated. I'm happy because I can transfer my values to the next generation from this old-fashioned offline world to the new, brand new digital world. What is a contract? A legally enforceable promise, a meeting of minds for the occurrence of the agreed legal consequences. What is a smart contract? Let's make a difference between smart contract and smart legal contract. Smart contracts are coded instructions which execute on the occurrence of an event. Smart legal contracts are written and legally enforceable contract where certain obligation may be represented or written by court. So let me summarize. Smart legal contract. We define smart legal contracts as a legally binding contract in which some or all contractual obligations are defined or performed automatically by a computer program. So the difference between smart contract and smart legal contracts is the legally binding contract as a result of these contractual terms
Okay, so is it fair?
negotiated between parties.
Okay. So is it fair to say that smart contracts, when smart contracts were introduced, smart legal contracts were not a thing yet?
Yes. The
Yes.
short answer is yes.
Okay, because most people, when they hear smart legal contracts, they think it's another term for smart contracts. But in fact, smart contracts is a term that was coined to define something specifically to blockchain, while smart legal contracts, if it's fair to
That's
say, it's
right.
an innovation in the legal sector.
That's right.
Okay, Nino, don't run away.
I would argue a little bit.
Please do.
Maybe the way we described smart legal contract and smart contract was not existing back in time, but smart legal contract has a executable code that if X appears leads to Y, was something that was available a long time ago. A simple example is banks using their systems to execute payments. This was an existing process long before smart legal contract appeared as a terminology, but it does the same in some sense.
Formula,
Just to remind everyone that we need the mic for the streaming.
Yeah, I'll just hold it.
you know what is the formula of the law? If then, the same I'm applying in development, in tech development, in programming. If then, if you do this, then you can have certain sanctions, you can be punished or not.
So you're saying all contracts can be automated very easily?
Yeah.
Okay.
But they're slight, they need slight amendments. I mean, smart contracts are not legally provided right now. There is no certain legal basis for smart contract, but traditional law can apply in the most forms of smart contracts, because some smart contracts vary in different forms. I'd like to attract your attention of different forms of smart contracts, and depends of the form of smart contracts is the reaction, is the legal
Can you speak a little bit louder because it's hard to hear?
A little bit loud.
Yes.
Okay,
Try
I'm gonna
screaming.
try. Okay, before to define the different form of smart contracts, I'd like to underline the two elements of smart legal contracts. The first is some or all the contractual obligations under the contract are performed automatically by computer program. And the second, the contract is legally enforceable. What are the forms of smart legal contracts now, recognized now? The first form is natural language contract with automatic performance by code. In this form, all legal negotiations and contractual terms are given by natural language, and only the execution is given by code.
Mhm.
The second form is so-called hybrid contract. A hybrid smart legal contract is a contract in which some contractual obligations are defined in natural language and others are defined of a computer program. These two forms are more common, and I can't see any difficulties from the legal point, because traditional law can apply to these two simple forms of smart legal contracts.
But that varies depending on the country and the legislation.
The legislation is silent right now about the smart legal contracts, especially in Bulgaria and Europe.
Especially in Bulgaria.
Especially in Bulgaria and Europe. The only jurisdiction, we're going to talk about this
Yeah,
later,
we have
a little
a
bit
question.
later, but just to mark, right now, Bulgaria and the whole Europe is silent, legislation is silent about legal contracts. No special principles about smart legal contract. It's up to the court, it's up to the judge to decide such cases, to resolve such cases, but the norm of traditional law can apply to these two simple forms of smart legal contract. The third form is contract recorded solely in code. Code is the mainstream here. All contractual terms are defined in and performed automatically by code of a computer program. No natural language version, of the agreement exists in this third form of smart legal contracts. And here there will be some challenges for the court and judges because they don't know nothing about code, and they have to use the knowledge and professional expertise of experts, which is not something unusual in the legislation process, because right now when judge have to decide some specific case, judge usually appoint an expert from different industry to make some statement and expertise, and then judge can resolve the case applying these statements, and this is something very common right now.
Okay, so yes. Do you see the QR code here? Okay.
But the site doesn't load.
Yes. Okay, so in summary, we have three types of smart legal contracts. If anyone didn't hear, because I'm not sure if everyone can hear, unfortunately, we have natural language, which is the way we write normal contracts. So we have natural language contracts with automated processes. We have hybrid contracts with natural language, but clauses, some or all, can be codified. And we have pure code contracts, which consist of no
Only
natural
code,
language.
no natural language.
Yes. Okay. So I think the third type is the closest to smart contracts, the way we know them in blockchain. The first two are the innovation that is coming to the legal sector, not yet popularized, but we're working towards there. And we're going to talk about how the first or the second type, so which one is more plausible to be popularized. Would it be possible to have clauses that are coded? Would it be more convenient to, or not more convenient, but more in correspondence with current legislation to have natural language contract with automated processes, because this would make it more or less easier. Okay, so for the next question, we were thinking we're going to go through smart contracts, smart legal contracts from a legal and tech perspective, and more specifically, the benefits. I want to start with those. I want to hear from you. What are the benefits of having a smart legal contract from a tech point of view, but also from a legal one, since both are a target group? Oh, and by the way, when we're talking about smart legal contracts, that does not include blockchain per se. Blockchain is an addition that we'll be discussing. So smart legal contracts, they don't depend on blockchain.
Yeah, so from tech perspective, well, I think one is actually creating the digital first representation of the contracts, which is I believe it's quite a struggle nowadays, and the negotiating phase also of the contracts. This is a challenge that still doesn't have a proper solution, as we see.
Paralegals.
Yeah. Another thing is actually using blockchain or DOT technologies. We can introduce a lot of benefits also, which is mainly the immutability of the records and traceability of even changes or events, whatever happens in the execution or negotiation of the contract. So from tech point of view, I believe these are the main advantages.
Okay.
And of course, the automated execution of clauses, which is another thing. But there are some other challenges. So, for example, translating the natural language contract into code is something that is quite an interesting aspect of this.
Before we move to the legal part, how many people here are in the legal sector? I forgot to ask. Woohoo, party. Have a lot of people. Okay, so from the rest of the people, who likes signing contracts? Is it a nice process? That's a lie. That's a lie.
I
So
like signing contracts because we need to kind of put food on the table.
okay, this was a joke.
Yeah, no.
Okay, so signing contracts, it's very annoying, especially if you're not understanding of the legal aspects. And usually it's like flying spreadsheets and documents across Gmail, Google Drive, SharePoint, and it's like final version 1, final version 1.2, dash final. Yeah.
Final two dot final.
Dot final dash sign final. Yes. So it's a very strenuous process. It includes a lot of work, especially on big contracts. I'm not talking about an easy statement of work between two parties, but if it's a big agreement that involves a lot of parties, that could extend to months of work. Yes, and a lot of work. It's prone to human error. There is no adequate audit trail and traceability. So having this in one platform really is an exciting aspect, even from purely document versioning perspective. Okay, so the legal benefits?
Okay. The main benefits of the traditional legal contracts. The first is the clarity. Because when the contract is concluded in natural language, people perfectly can understand the contractual terms and the agreement and to give their consent to these particular contractual terms. So the clarity is the first benefit. The second is enforceability because judges speak natural language. They don't know code and they can't understand the technical side of smart legal contracts and the agreement given via code. But downsides of traditional legal contracts. Sometimes or usually they take a long time to draft and complete, to sign. If the contract is huge, consisting of many pages, it requires even physical efforts to sign every page of the contract. The other one, the traditional legal contracts are not 100% secure and exhaustive. And the next fulfillment of the contract may lead to complications and disputes between the parties because we humans can make a lot of mistake, can be misled, can fail to understand the contractual obligations and the terms of the contract. It depends on the contracts. American contracts usually one page, one sentence. It's not easy to be understood from common people. So these are the main disadvantages of traditional legal contracts. Smart contract benefits: security, immutability, transparency, and finally, smart contracts are legally binding contracts, which is the main advantage of smart legal contracts because they are legally binding. And also they have the potential to automate the many processes, to facilitate many transactions and contractual terms, etc., etc., etc.
Okay. I'm going to go a bit outside of the script because I just realized if I was a random person in the audience, I would think, why would I need a smart legal contract if I can just sign digitally? And that for me is the same thing in my mind. So what is the difference between signing digitally a contract and having that smart legal contract? What is the difference?
I can't see any difference because we sign when you sign via electronic signature some contract. It's almost the same if this contract given by code and the executed via code.
Okay, so for
If
me,
you agree with the contractual terms, I can't see any difference.
okay, so from a user perspective, it wouldn't make a big difference, but behind the scenes, you would have a difference.
The main thing here is just to trust the technology.
That's a hard
the
thing to
main
say.
the main thing, to trust the technology, because when you sign the contract manually, you trust yourself, to your signature, or to the signature of the other person, other contractual party.
Okay, but if I sign a smart legal contract in blockchain and I know I've been advertised that it's immutable, how would I trust it? How would I know that the clause will execute
You
just as I
can't.
want? Can't.
You can't.
Okay, now we're getting somewhere.
Because depends on your attitude. Because if you are a tech person, if you know enough about the technology behind smart legal contracts, you can easily trust the code, the system, the platform, etc. But if you are not a savvy person, it will be
Which are most people.
yeah, it will be difficult to trust the technology, and that's the main point.
Okay, I just want to say, Nino, you're kind of outside of the picture, and I think it's disrespectful, so you have to get back inside. This picture here. I have a question for you. Tell me about the risks, or if you want to tell me about the benefits from a technical point of view of implementing such a solution.
Well, of course, the benefits are clear. We speak about self-executable contract, which is triggered, like if I speak more now to the tech part, not the legal part of the audience, we speak about self-executable contract that is triggered by some evidences. And here is the place where you can bring IoT devices, where you can bring all the new funny technologies that you can imagine. And while we were speaking, I was like thinking of bringing an example, like a simple delivery versus payment. I'm using account and I want to send a guas to my hometown, for example. And basically they'll put a sign, easily breakable or something like that. I don't know how to translate that on English. So nowadays they put that on a package, they put the sticker, and then you pray that it doesn't got broken until it reached to the final destination. If you bring an IoT device and a smart legal contract into the picture, you can put the device that tracks like how many holes are there on the Autobahn to Burgas and how many times the driver hit exactly such a thing. And you can put a clause that says every time that there is such a deviation and a possibility for this to break, then there is a penalty. And this is executed every single time immediately when there is such a event happened. So this is what a smart legal self-executable contract is. And this is, let's say, from explained from my eyes and technical point of view. What are the struggles? Of course, there are many struggles like reaching agreement if we speak about distributed ledger technologies, reaching agreement between all the participants into the network of whenever a contract should be updated. And this is like a common tech problem when we speak about blockchain and such kind of networks with many participants. Basically, updating the protocol, updating the contract is a huge thing and a huge topic. Of course, let's say the situation where developer mistake leads to some huge mismatch between the, let's say, natural language contract that might have been mapped using a template to the code that stays behind is also a really, let's say, risky part. And here comes the question, who's responsible? Maybe this is something that we discuss. Is it the developer that is going to go to jail? Yeah. Who is responsible? So yeah, I mean, the responsibility of the code to map to the natural language contract and updating of existing contracts are, let's say, the biggest challenges that I could mention just now.
Guys, I can't imagine how smart contract can predict human mistake and human behavior. Can you tell me?
Just to remind the microphone for streaming.
Right? If we can't predict that a human makes a mistake, we do live in a chaos.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
But
there's a contradiction for you.
I'm a digital optimist. I think everything can be, how can I say, shaped in some reasonable protocols. I don't know.
Who said that?
It's a great challenge for smart contract and for technology because human behavior and human mistakes can be predicted. That's the main challenge of smart contracts for me as a legal person.
Okay. So, yeah, you kind of touched on some things that I wanted to ask in terms of risks, which was the next bigger topic, the risks of implementing smart legal contracts. So what happens if a certain clause, well, let's say in all contracts, you cannot have automation of all clause, or probably you wouldn't have automation of all clause. What if one of the automations of a clause leads to a mistake? How would you deal with that after the contract is executed, in the carrying out of works in legal terms?
I think we have to talk about the requirements for the formation of legally binding contracts and follow these elements, and then to discuss legal risks associated to these elements of legally binding smart contract. The first is agreement. Parties have to reach an agreement. We expect in most cases entry into a smart legal contract will typically be preceded by natural language negotiations. And in these cases, I can't see any problems for the traditional law to apply, because if we have negotiations in natural language, I can't see any challenges here and any legal risk. The question for the court would be the same as in traditional contract scenario. Did the words and conduct of the parties and offer and acceptance and therefore on this particular agreement? This will be the question, the main question for the court when he has to resolve particular case related to smart contracts. With the coding principle, it is possible for parties to reach an agreement on a DLT system or other smart contract performed by deploying and interacting with code without engaging natural language communication. The relevant question here is whether the deployment of the code amounts to an offer and whether the interaction amounts to an acceptance. Because in traditional contracts, we need to have an offer and acceptance. This is out of question when we talk about the contract. An offer and acceptance. The next element is consideration. Under contractual promises, under the law, contractual promises cannot, as a general rule, be made gratuitously. hugely, that is for nothing in return. The exception is promise made by deeds. When we talk about deeds, there is a lot of complications because the law prescribes a certain obligatory form of deeds. We can talk about this later. The next element is certainty and completeness of the contract. In a hybrid agreement, a potential form of uncertainty is the natural language and coded terms. They may conflict with one another. This will be the great challenge in hybrid contracts, from legal perspective, of course. The next element in the contract is intention to create legal relations. People usually when they conclude a contract, they want to create legal relations, and it is a question of fact as to whether the parties intended to create legal relations. Several factors may be relevant to that assessment that court have to apply. First is the nature and purpose of the platform on which the code is deployed. And the second is the nature of the transactions executed by the code. These two questions are open and will be open for the court when decide if there is a real intention for parties to create legal relations, legal obligations when they make their contractual terms.
Okay, so from the three types, thank you for that explanation. It was very thorough. From the three types of smart legal contracts that we've discussed, which ones are likely to be implemented in, let's say, Bulgaria? Because this is one of the next questions we were looking at, how it varies depending on country. Most people, when they hear about smart legal contracts, they think, can it be implemented in my country or the country that I work in? So we know in the UK, under the jurisdiction of England and Wales, there is no problem to implement a smart legal contract and for it to be legally admissible in court and disputed. So how is that situation in Bulgaria, let's say, or in the EU?
From the practical perspective, the most difficult to be proved is the intention to make a legal relationship, to create legal relations, the intention. Because you have to prove, usually this is proved by a signature. And the other things, the other complication can be the goodwill. If each of the parties act in a goodwill, how can you prove the goodwill? Tell me, technically.
Probably this will vanish as a requirement when we have so smart and so legal contracts.
But it matters in legal cases because it's a must for the avoidance of the contracts. Goodwill.
Yeah, but I don't know. Maybe in the new world, the goodwill.
In the new world, we do not care. We want it faster.
Yeah, because if it's a machine, there is no such thing like will in the machine. The machine doesn't have like such kind of interpretation over actions.
For now, yes.
I think human behavior and human intentions. This is the most difficult things to be coded, to be written and expressed by code. How can you express feelings?
Okay, so maybe for the next 2 years, we wouldn't let AI solve disputes, legal disputes. But apart from that, how is the situation in Bulgaria? I really wanted to discuss this, smart legal contracts in Bulgaria. Are
Okay.
they legally admissible in court?
Yes and
Yes.
no, because Bulgaria is a gray area for legal smart contracts. And the law is silent about the legality. We were talking about a smart legal contract, but there is no such terms in our existing legislation.
So what does that
Applicable
mean for
legislation.
users?
But I believe that the traditional law can apply in most cases because when you talk about something kind of formula, if then, and stay aside of these human factors, intentions, and goodwill, I think there is no problem to apply a traditional law, traditional contract law.
Okay, so tell me, which contracts, we've discussed this actually previously before the event, but at Industria, we're focusing on standard form contracts, which are more simple. They have simpler logic in them that can be automated easier. So which contracts are suitable for being turned into smart legal contracts?
If smart legal contracts contains natural language, I think there will be no such huge problems for the courts and for judges to resolve the cases, because it's quite common right now judges to use expertise and professional knowledge of experts when they have to decide some particular case related to different industry. They usually appoint experts from different industry with the specific knowledge, and they can resolve the case using this experts knowledge, expertise. And if smart legal contracts involve natural language, it will be easier for the court and judges to resolve the cases. But when we talk about the third form of smart legal contract, when everything is, the whole process is given by a court, there will be certain challenges for the whole legal system. And I think we need novel regulation related to the application of smart legal contracts, because it's really specific. It's a great challenge for the existing legal system.
Okay, thank you. So I have a question for the tech department now. Law aside, speaking of code is law, is there any way in which contracts would not require any legal part? They would be purely code and they would depend on entirely new guidelines. This has been an increasing topic in blockchain. What's your opinion on that?
Well, I think we do have this situation anyway. So we have a lot of programs running. They do what they do. And
How
That's a good advertisement.
so everything is, they're working, but then the main difficulty comes when there is some kind of disputes. So disputes are something that software cannot do. And so I think that's...
enforceability is
I think you've stolen my question, and it was about disputes. I just raised the question. I'm always interrupting. How disputes and litigation
Excuse me?
would be handled?
We're still having a...
depends. Depends if this problem raising these disputes, who is responsible for this problem? Is this if the problem is related to actions of coder, developer, it's a technical mistake, or natural language, or it is just because of or the problem is due just because the natural language is not so clear. We have to investigate where is the problem, and it will be really tough, really difficult to decide to resolve such dispute, because the court has to explore deeply where is the mistake, where the things goes wrong, because it could be due to the technical error, or due to human mistake, or due to natural language. Depends.
I think we can actually add a lot more layers of complexity in this case, because, for example, I'm referring back to Nino's example earlier with these IoT devices and so on. So by automating some clauses in a smart contract, we actually add quite a lot of levels of complexity. So this is not only the interpretation of natural language into code, but then we also add reception of events outside of the contract. Then we can add IoT devices, for example, which can malfunction. So what will be whose fault would be that? So we can go for quite a lot of things here. This such kind of system would also be prone to attacks. So some malicious actions from third parties. So it's a very complex thing.
Yeah, agree.
Okay, we have one more topic from our original topics, and then I saw we have a lot of questions, and because we are running a bit ahead of time, so let's finish this last topic. It's on AI in smart legal contracts and possible implementations.
Yeah, probably in a perfect world, we could just feed an AI with natural language code contracts, and it will automatically detect all the clauses and everything that can be automated, and create everything that's needed. So I would say we are quite far from this still. AI is not on the level that is needed for this thing. But probably that's something in the future that we'll see someday.
Okay, shall we move to the questions, or does anybody want to add something?
I want to say something. We humans have to be very vigilant about using AI, because if the AI will dominate our everyday life, if AI have to decide about our everyday life, about our values, about the way we live, will be in a, how can I say, if we have to live in a world dominated by AI, people, we can become pets of robots. Do you want that?
Some days I would delegate AI to take choices for me.
I don't want to think about that, but it's quite possible.
Okay, so on a more positive note, we have a lot of questions. So all of them are from anonymous. I do not know who to address, so assume I'm addressing all of you.
can show them on the screen.
Unfortunately not. Well, probably, but I have them on my iPad, so we'll just continue like this. Okay, so Anonymous asks, what would be the first industries that would require smart legal contracts? Okay, I believe we have something to say on this topic, and then Jen, you can also give your input.
Well, we have started with
The construction industry.
construction industry. Sorry. Yeah. So in this case, actually, we're starting with the simple ones. There are very strict process and very strict contracts, which can be automated and implemented in relatively short time. So the natural way to go is actually starting simple and moving on from there, adding more and more features. So this is the way we chose to go.
I think the payment industry is quite usual sphere for implementing smart contracts because the relations are very simple there. Pay
Or not get paid.
or not get it. So payment industry is already pioneering in this sphere. So it's
But anyone who has ever worked with payment service providers knows the
Payment
horror
service
of parsing
Use
through all the
this
errors
technology.
and everything. So imagine all the errors that you would have when implementing a normal PSP. Now imagine having that with a smart legal contract and having to solve them via disputes. That would be, it's definitely the main point. And it's definitely a main industry that smart legal contracts are headed, but it's very complex, and it's important to say that it's in the early stages, and we can see a lot of development hopefully there soon. Okay. Next question. Is it possible for paper-based and digital contracts to exist at the same time? Jenny, this is for you.
it's quite possible, and they exist right now.
Okay, it's not a mystery, they do. Okay. What is the solution that smart legal contracts provides in the case of litigation and disputes? Jenny, this is another one for you.
I don't know Bulgarian court to have such case up to now, but maybe there will be because smart contracts are broadly implemented in different industries. It will be very interesting to see how Bulgarian court will resolve such case related to smart contracts and their implementation in different industries. I think, as I already said, the judges, the court will use professional knowledge and expertise of expert developers. Tech person will advise the court and in translating, in interpretation of natural language to code and vice versa.
Okay. Okay. We have a question. Can you show us an example of legal smart contract? I'm not sure what this question entails, possibly showing an actual example. Unfortunately, we're not prepared to show one at the moment, but hopefully soon. We'll have a series of events on smart legal contracts, so hopefully soon we can show something to the public.
Probably we can describe like the main ingredients of
Oh, please do.
like a smart legal contract. Not teach and everyone because as you can imagine there are lots of solutions, different solutions. But if we can generalize, the main idea behind most of the decisions is you have a markdown language where you have this natural contract, natural language contract, and you have the code that picks the main ingredients. You can imagine like form. You're going to an institution, you're taking a form, and you have to fill certain boxes. So you have this template and the markdown language that extracts exactly these boxes, put them in a piece of code, self-executable code, and then whenever events starts arriving, and this is the point where the contract starts executing, triggered by some events,
Checkboxes.
yeah, that are happening, like late delivery or whatever. So if we have this event, then the contract is executing, and taken like the parties and everything, like deadlines from this template, extract it into a code, and mainly this is how it looks like a smart legal contract. You have the natural language, extract it, put it into the code where the place is, and then whenever events happens, it starts clicking and triggers the different clauses from the contract. Yeah.
Sounds promising.
Yes, sounds promising. Early on, I wanted, probably this is not the best place, but early on I wanted to make a clear differentiations between smart contract and smart legal contract, because I was left with the impression that we didn't explain that quite clearly. So just to sum it up in a sentence, smart contract is not self-executable. It has to be triggered, like probably some of you are familiar with Ethereum and smart contracts over there in the blockchain. We discussed about smart contracts in DOT, in particular in Corda, where we are really powerful. And basically, the smart contract over there is executed whenever there is an intention of a transaction between parties. So imagine there is an intention between two parties to move from X to Y, and you have some parameters that are delivered, and only when this intention is available, then the piece of code, this smart contract, is executed. It's not triggered from outside events. It's an event that is coming to, let's say, to the application, to the platform itself. So it's not self-executable. It has to be triggered from manually, let's say, and the code is verified only then. Where smart legal contract is self-executable, event-driven contract that takes care of its own, let's say.
Okay, that was great, actually. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so who is responsible for validating a clause in a smart legal contract? How the rights of the parties are guaranteed? Let's assume now this is done by lawyers. Who is validating a clause in a smart legal?
Well, probably each party should get familiar with, if possible.
Okay, yeah. So in general, smart legal contracts, they have three phases. They have the negotiation, they have the execution, which is the signing, and they have the carrying out of the contract works. So by the point of execution, you should have already read the clauses that are there, if it's a natural language one. If it's entirely code, well,
I think
we still should have read that in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
we need a specific regulation about the responsibility. Who will be responsible? Because right now, the only guilty person seems to be a coder, developer,
Don't become a developer.
not a lawyer.
Okay.
That's why I think
Is this what the gray zone in Bulgaria means?
absolutely.
Okay.
I have to reconsider things afterwards.
Okay.
Right now, the coder is the only person responsible for performance of smart legal contract.
You mentioned earlier before the event 2024. Is there anything that we're expecting then?
Yes, we are expecting brand new laws coming from the EU and the digital reforms, consisting of 4 big pieces of law. One of these is DLT, especially dedicated to DLT, to the technology. So up to 2024, we expect to have these all things to be regulated in the whole European Union. In this legislation will be applicable equally in all member states.
Okay. So no launching of smart legal contracts until 2024. We don't want the developers to be sued
The
before
best
then.
of my knowledge right now, the best legislation with some particular laws and statements of legal commission we can see in the UK.
In the UK, yes.
In the UK, UK is a leading jurisdiction with a specific provision for smart contracts and their interpretation. Also, we have certain legal, certain laws in some states in the United States. I know about Arizona, but
Italy and Europe, they recently passed new legislation.
UK is the leading
And okay,
jurisdiction.
yeah, UK is the
in-
leading, but also Italy recently, and more countries are jumping. So sorry, I just saw a comment from somebody that said, sorry, but we almost do not hear anything. We're trying our best here, but it's like an hour and something. We cannot scream the whole time. For the next time, we'll know to use some speakers. Hopefully we have repeated the most important parts for those who did not hear. Okay, there's a lot of questions, so I'm going to try and go through them. We have a legal question. Can you give us some use cases of smart contracts? Can you also elaborate how smart contracts can contribute to the value of equal access to justice?
Mhm.
Oh, that's a big one.
Wow, that's the good one, really. We know we humans are, we can easily make a lot of mistakes. We can take decisions influenced by our human emotions. And this can be avoided when we rely on technology where no human interface, no human interaction is needed. And this is the way we can expect some improvements in the legal system in this respect.
Okay. Okay.
Relying more on technical means or code, not so much on human emotional world, emotionally driven decisions.
Okay. No emotions.
No emotions.
Noted.
More code.
Code oriented.
less
I thought we were going to stay
emotions.
humans though. Okay. Okay, so we have a lot of questions and we don't have a lot of time left. Actually, we're 10 minutes past our time. But there is one question. Okay, so one of the questions is, let's finish. Thank you. The other question is, what enforces the legitimacy of a smart legal contract? Can I create a smart legal contract platform? And let's say, this is an important one. Let's say only 2 users are registered, 2 sides of a contract. Will their contract be legit and stand in court, or the platform must be allowed by the country to practice this, similar to a notary?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the whole question.
Okay, so
Very
Shortly.
question, by the way.
yeah, in short, can I make a smart legal contract platform tomorrow, let's say, and have 2 users registered, and can that be a valid legal contract that would stand in court? Or do I need this to be allowed by the country? Do I need this platform to be audited and legally stamped fine?
It's difficult to say how this can be done legally, and maybe the practical decision is to go to the country, to the jurisdiction where these cases are legally resolved in specific norms, in specific, there is a certain procedure.
Yes. But
This will be the safe option.
Okay, but on the other hand, in Bulgaria, a verbal contract is binding, correct?
Absolutely.
A verbal contract is binding, so why would not a platform?
The law does not require any particular form of the legality of contract.
So
It can be done orally or whatever, because only specific contracts, for specific contract, law prescribed certain form. Let's say this is when we talk about real estate contracts, deeds require notarization, not only a written form, but even notarization. They have to be witnessed by the notary, official person. But in all other cases, when the law is silent about the form, the contract can be given in any possible form, freely.
Okay, so in other words, yes. Okay.
Yes.
So you're free to create that platform, whoever asked that question. Okay, so we are really beyond our time. So I would like to thank everyone that stayed, and to those who did not hear us, you'll catch the recording. And we stay here for networking, so if anyone has any questions, we are open. Thanks, everyone.
Bravo to you.
Thank you.